All right, joining me now, Roger Stone. Welcome back to the Alec Lace Show.
Great to be with you again.
It's awesome to see you here. Listen, I just had George Papadopoulos on Tuesday. I'm trying to get Michael Flynn, General Flynn, back here next week, and it's just for guys like me, aggravated over the whole Trump-Russia thing for years. I can't even imagine what it's like for you guys that went through all this, had to go to prison, and all this nonsense. So, first of all, what's your take on what we're getting right now about Tulsi Gabbard blowing the doors off this whole thing?
Well, personally, I feel completely and totally vindicated. If you think about it, Alec, I was convicted of lying under oath about the Russian collusion. But how does one lie about something that didn't happen? The judge specifically said in this harangue in which he attacked me in sentence, he said, "You were convicted of covering up for Donald Trump." Covering up what? The Russian collusion? There was no Russian collusion. There also was no WikiLeaks collaboration. So I give huge credit to Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence. She has wrenched this information from the deep state. She's laid it out for all to see. So this is no longer speculation or investigative journalism. These are hard, cold facts. And it's very clear that Barack Obama himself was the leading perp. He was the guy running the greatest single dirty trick in American political history. It was an abuse of power in which they used the full authority of the United States government and the extraordinary capabilities of our intelligence agencies using two pieces of completely fabricated evidence. The Steele dossier, paid for by Hillary Clinton, a total fraud, claiming falsely that Donald Trump had dallied with prostitutes in Russia when he visited there as a private citizen, and the false claim that the Democrat National Committee was the target of an online hack by Russian intelligence, which there is no evidence to support that whatsoever. It's like John Brennan, it's true because John Brennan said it was, which is absurd in itself. So I think that there are sphincters puckering all over Washington today. Comey, Brennan, Rosenstein, Clapper. This is a rogues gallery. And the real question boils down to this, Alec. Do we have a two-tier justice system in which these people walk, where people like General Flynn and I and Paul Manafort, who really didn't do anything wrong, were prosecuted? Or are we going to recalibrate the scales of justice here? And are these people going to pay for this incredible political crime?
Yeah, do they show up at gunpoint at their doors like they did to you guys? Like, is that what we're going to see? You know, it's now talk about John Brennan. He said that the Steele dossier was not used to create the FISA warrant to spy
Right.
on Trump. That's what he said. Now,
And he said it under oath. So that is a material lie. Look, when I testified before the House Intelligence Committee, I did make several misstatements, but they're all innocuous. None of them, they didn't hide any underlying crime. They're irrelevant. Whereas in the case of John Brennan, he specifically said that the Steele dossier was not used to justify the FISA warrants, was not used to justify the Mueller investigation. We now know that that was a material lie.
Yeah, and that's why we want to see justice. Now, what do you make of this? Cash Patel, about a month ago, Cash Patel was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he said that when he first got to the FBI, that they found this secret room that was hidden from the world by Brennan or by Comey, I should say, and others. And now we learned that he found thousands of documents related to this Russia collusion hoax that were in burn bags. So, what do you make of that? I mean, it's
Well, in all honesty, one of my great concerns all along here has been, and I've experienced this firsthand, even if you catch these people completely red-handed, as Tulsi Gabbard has now done, if they go to trial in the District of Columbia in front of a left-wing activist judge and an all-Democrat jury, no one will be convicted no matter how egregious the crime may be. Kash Patel, I think, by investigating this as a conspiracy, both I think can overcome the question of the statute of limitations. Look, John Durham took 5 long years to figure out what John Solomon and Lee Smith and Paul Sperry and some of these other great investigative journalists already figured out. Why did he take so long? I'll tell you why. He wanted to make sure that Hillary and John Podesta and Robbie Mook and McCabe, Brennan, Clapper, none of these people could be prosecuted. That's why they took their time. I think Kash Patel has figured out a way around that so that these people can be held accountable.
And one of those things is that, I was asking George about this on Tuesday. We're hearing that Obama can be impeached. Therefore, we can forget about his presidential immunity because Trump said, yes, Obama has the presidential immunity. That'll protect him. He should thank me for that. But now we're hearing, what is your take on it? Could Barack Obama, is there a way to do that post?
Yeah, here's the beauty of it. This is the argument that the Democrats made during Trump's impeachment. So, as David Schoen, who was one of Trump's very best criminal defense lawyers in the impeachment proceedings, pointed out, this is their argument. They're being hoisted on their own argument, which means Barack Obama could be impeached. And if he were impeached, he would therefore lose his immunity. It can be done theoretically, at least from a legal point of view.
Well, and then that leads to the question, do you think we will see the arrests? I mean, that's what we were all waiting for, is the arrest. Do you think we will actually see the arrest and some accountability here? And what's your faith that we're going to see that?
Well, let's put Obama aside because
Right.
to impeach him would still require 2/3 of the U.S. Senate. I don't,
Fair.
despite the fact that I think he deserves to be impeached, I don't think that's likely to happen. But yes, I actually think that Brennan and Clapper and Comey, among others, are going to be charged. Now, this all depends on Pam Bondi, the Attorney General of the United States, and I have called on her to bring prosecutions, as has General Flynn, many others. A lot of the people behind you on the wall there. So, but it's going to be up to the Justice Department. I think she will do the right thing, but until we impanel a grand jury and we actually produce indictments, nothing is for sure. I don't think we need to study this anymore. I don't think we need a. We may need a special prosecutor. Let me rephrase that. We may need a special counsel. A special prosecutor would have to be confirmed by the U.S. Senate, and that would become a fight in itself. But the Justice Department today can impanel a grand jury and begin indicting people. And we know the hit list: Comey, Brennan, Rice, McCabe, Rosenstein. I mean, it's a rogues gallery. It really is.
And that's the thing, is like investigating. Yes, we've done the investigating here. It seems like we have the evidence that we need. It's time to start making movements. Where the Democrats, when they didn't even have what they needed, they made the arrests. They started arresting people and threw people in jail. And that's the difference between the Democrats and the GOP. That seems to be spineless when it comes to actually taking action and holding people accountable.
Well, it remains to be seen. Look, I think Kash Patel is doing a great job. But Kash Patel is not the one who decides who gets charged. Kash Patel can only investigate a crime and hand the fruits of that investigation over to the Department of Justice. Then the Attorney General and her assistants have to make a decision. So for people to say to Kash Patel, well, nobody's been charged, that's not his responsibility. I think he's doing a great job. And he came up with a way that we could, theoretically, I think, as I say, get beyond the 5-year statute of limitations and also bring this case to trial someplace other than D.C.
Yeah, and I agree, because I know that would be the slam dunk for them. But I do think that that's what it is. It's just going to take, I know we say patience, you got to trust the plan, you got to wait, but it's like we want to see some of this accountability. Now, you say the Department of Justice, a lot of people disappointed with Pam Bondi now, especially because of the Epstein. I want to get your take on this, because we just had the other day Trump on the plane talking about Epstein taking girls from Mar-a-Lago, which was all well documented. The one being Virginia Giuffre, and then, or whatever, I was thinking of saying her name wrong there, but she had already came out and said and testified that Trump had never done anything wrong. She never seen him take part in anything, and she actually endorsed him for president the second time around. So what is your take? It started out as a debacle. Have they made a turnaround? Have they made a pivot in the way that they're handling this whole thing?
Well, Alec, first of all, I think I probably know more about this case than just about anyone, because in my 2015 book, The Clintons' War on Women, the longest chapter in the book is about Jeffrey Epstein. I went and read every word of the pleadings and the sworn testimony in Virginia Roberts Giuffre's case, also cases of other women who did not agree to settle with Epstein. Donald Trump cut Jeffrey Epstein off in 2005. That was before Epstein was exposed as a pedophile. It was before he was charged in Florida. And there's no inconsistency here. What I have been saying is that Epstein made an indecent advance to an underage girl. And what Trump says, well, he was trying to steal one of my employees. It's the same person. It's Virginia Giuffre, and she was underage. So there's no inconsistency there. And at that point, he bans Epstein from all of his properties. This idea that Donald Trump had some inappropriate or illegal activity, there's no witness to that. Trump never goes to his New York apartment, never goes to his Paris apartment, never goes to his island, never goes to his New Mexico ranch. And according to the documents I read, he was only at his Palm Beach home once, and that was for a public fundraiser for a charity. And he stayed for 15 minutes, and Virginia Giuffre was there, and she said she saw no inappropriate activity by Donald Trump. So, the Democrats jumping up and down about the idea that Trump or the Republicans are withholding the list. Dick Durbin, the senator from Illinois, actually pushed a law to prevent the list from being disclosed several years ago. I can tell you right now, of the political figures who visited that island, there are no Republicans. How do you know that? People say, how would you know that? People keep saying, Stone knows that because he was on the island himself. That's nonsense. I know it because I read all of the pleadings. I had the little black book that was first produced by Nick Bryant in Gawker magazine. I had the FAA manifest that shows you everyone who went on the plane and who went where. And Bill Clinton is on the plane 28 times. Of that, there is no doubt. But in a large number of those trips, Alec, he dumps his Secret Service detail. He doesn't take them with him, which is very, very odd. And it's very clear from the sworn testimony of several of those who sued Epstein that Clinton was definitely on the island. Donald Trump was never on the island.
Well, this is what baffles me then here too about the Democrats, because we know damn well that the only thing that they care about is trying to get Trump. If it was no chance to get Trump, when that comes out proven beyond reasonable doubt, Trump had nothing to do with it. The Democrats drop the Epstein case like a wet towel. They want nothing to do with it at that point. So why do you think it is that they're willing to risk it? The fact that there's so many Democrats tied to this Epstein thing to try to go after it when they know that Trump, just like you said, with the evidence shows that Trump wasn't involved. What's their play here? Do they have confidence that the list will never come out, that this stuff will never get solved, and that's why they're making it seem like they're interested?
I can be honest with you, Alex. I think at a certain point they start to believe their own bullshit. So they actually thought that they would find evidence of Russian collusion, and of course, there's none. There were political figures on the island. Senate Majority Leader George Mitchell, a Democrat. Governor Bill Richardson of New Mexico, a Democrat. Bill Gates, a Democrat. So there were some political figures on the island, but they're not going to find what they think they're going to find. I think that it's very, very phony. They don't want to talk about the economy. They don't want to talk about the fact that in June, for the first time since 2015, we actually ran a surplus. They don't want to talk about these incredible accomplishments at our border, where illegal border crossings have dropped by 98%. They don't want to talk about the largest single deportation of dangerous criminal aliens in American history. So we have to talk about the Epstein case. And there just is there, as far as Donald Trump is concerned, there is no there there. And I hope they get what they asked for. They're going to find that any political figure went on the island was a Democrat.
Yeah, it's going to come back.
I know that from the FAA manifests that show you who flew to the island.
And that would be the ultimate for it to just come back and bite them in the ass. But I just hopefully we get some kind of ending to this. But you're going to keep it as much as they can until something happens, because it's their play. Like you said, we just had the GDP growth higher than expectations. The economy is doing better than expectations. All the experts were wrong from Liberation Day that said the economy was going to tank because of what Trump did with the tariffs. Now they're all wrong, and they don't want to talk about it.
Well, but now I guess it took me a little while to finally understand what the president was saying. When he said it was a hoax, he didn't mean that Epstein was not a child sex trafficker. That's not what he meant. What he meant was all of these key documents have been in the hands of the Southern District of New York, the most left-wing, Trump-hating prosecutors in the federal system, and the New York office of the FBI. And therefore, there's a high probability that these documents have been tampered with, that they've been salted. For example, with this phony birthday card. Who types a birthday card? who types a birthday card? If you're going to give some birthday card, you write it out. And it doesn't even sound like Donald Trump. It's so obviously a fraud. So I think that's what he meant when he said it's a hoax. The documents, which have not been made public, which have been in the hands of the federal prosecutors, why are we just now interviewing Ghislaine Maxwell? How is it possible that Damian Williams, the Democrat U.S. attorney and New York prosecutor, but he never once interviewed her or he never once cross-examined her? That seems very strange to me.
It does to me. I've always been asking that, even during Biden's term there. Well, why don't we have these jailhouse interviews with Ghislaine Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell? We've seen them interview like Jeffrey Dahmer and all these Charles Manson, all these serial killers. Where's the one-on-ones with this girl? She holds the keys to all this. So do we finally get her testimony? Do you think she's actually going to go before Congress and we'll get it?
I'd like to see that. I mean, first of all, how do you indict somebody for conspiracy but not indict any of the other conspirators? Mm. The Diddy case, the Maxwell case, it's the same construct. So the Maxwell case was designed to fail. They didn't interview any of his co-conspirators. Very strange. Same thing's true with Maxwell. And of course, I'm sorry, but I just don't think Jeffrey Epstein killed himself. The inspection by Dr. Michael Baden, one of the most respected pathologists in the country, the longtime New York medical examiner, a guy who said that he has done autopsies in 1,000 hanging cases, said that the 3 broken bones in Epstein's neck were inconsistent with the idea that he hung himself by a sheet. But did they check that sheet for DNA to see whose DNA was on it? I guess Bill Barr forgot to do that, huh?
The whole thing doesn't sound right. Then they released a tape that was missing a minute, and then that whole thing. That's what I mean. The whole optics of this was a debacle. The way this thing was brought forth, especially with the binders, the Epstein files, and that whole thing was a very bad optic. It should have just came right to this. Hey, let's get Maxwell out here. Let's get her to start with that. That's where we got to begin.
No, I agree. I'd like to see her testify before Congress under oath. I have no fear of that whatsoever. It will not reflect badly in any way on Donald Trump.
Well, last thing I want to get your take on here before I get you out of here is because the last time I had you on here, he was just releasing the JFK files, and I know you've written about that extensively. And what did we learn? I mean, all these unclassified documents. Did we get any closer to the truth? Did you find anything new?
It's not over yet. Just last week, Anna Paulina Luna announced a huge breakthrough. For many, many years, decades, the Russians have been unwilling to give us their files on Lee Harvey Oswald. Now, the successor to the KGB has agreed to hand all of that information over. There's still 10 or 12 key documents or key transcripts or key videos that she has not been able to get because there are elements in the deep state that continue to hold back information. But yes, we had a major breakthrough roughly 2 weeks ago. The CIA told us for 6 decades that they weren't tracking Oswald. They didn't know who Oswald was. That turns out to be completely false. They finally turned over documents that showed that there was a CIA counterintelligence operative who was tracking Oswald, who was reading his correspondence, who was in essence his handler. That is a major breakthrough. And they orchestrated this street scuffle in New Orleans where Oswald gets arrested after handing out pro-Castro flyers, gets into a street fight. That was designed to establish the idea that Oswald was pro-communist, that he was pro-Russian, pro-Castro. It was part of the setting up of Oswald as a patsy. And the CIA has finally admitted their involvement in putting Oswald there. Here's what's interesting. Oswald gets into a street fight in New Orleans. First of all, the address on the flyer that he's handing out is the office address of the local FBI informant, Guy Bannister. But secondarily, Oswald is arrested. He goes to the Dallas police office. He has one phone call. Who does he call? His lawyer? His wife? No, he calls the head of the FBI, and 30 minutes later, he's out on the street.
Wild. Now, do you think so far, as of what we've gotten so far, do you think what we've seen has pretty much corroborated what you've written about, your feeling on all this, or do you think it's taking you in a different direction?
No, there's just a lot of things missing. Look, I think they have established the CIA's involvement in Kennedy's murder. There's still a number of pieces, but they've lied about their knowledge of him. Completely missing is the involvement of organized crime. In 1978, the House Select Committee on Assassinations concluded that organized crime had been involved in John Kennedy's murder. Yet none of these documents have anything to do with organized crime. So Carlos Marcello, who was the gangster who ran the mob in Louisiana and Texas, was being recorded on a bug in his jail cell both before and after the assassination. The Assassination Records Review Board in the late 90s had those recordings. Where are they now? Where are they now?
Man, what a tangled web we weave. Roger Stone, what do you got coming up on the Stone Zone here? I know where you can find. I got the link down in the description below. What do you got coming up?
It's interesting to me that Tom Cotton, a Republican from Arkansas, is trying to limit the authority of Tulsi Gabbard to declassify documents. So if Cotton had his way, Tulsi Gabbard would not have been able to expose the entire Russian collusion hoax. Why in the world would he want to do that? Now, some of the media tell you it's about cutting the size of her staff. In fact, she herself has a plan to cut the number of employees in her department in half. It's not about that. It's about limiting her authority to declassify the secrets of the deep state. That's what Tom Cotton of Arkansas is trying to do.
Wow, this is crazy stuff. Roger Stone, always grateful that you take the time to speak with me. Love to have you back on. God bless you, and thanks for joining me today on the Alec Lace Show.
Great to be with you, Alec.